Alright guys, welcome back to the shop. Last video we removed the engine, got the wiring labeled, got all this out of the engine bay. I did remove the transmission off camera, just it's a few simple bolts, and pulled it right out. And actually you can lift it by hand if you're pretty strong. It doesn't weigh a lot, so I was able to get that out and over on a dolly. And so next course of action is clean up the engine bay, get a lot of this small stuff out of the way that we won't be using. We need to drain the fuel tank because we are going to be doing some cutting and welding, and I don't want fuel in the tank, and I don't think that the fuel is probably any good at all. So we'll get that out of there, start getting ready to do a test fit for the engine. Well, that was easy. It was already loose. Got lucky on that. Look at that. I have no idea how much gas is in here. I'm really hoping not a lot. Gas doesn't look bad, so that's promising on the tank side. Whew. Oh. Yeah, don't open your mouth. I don't remember there being like a ton of gas in here. So, let's see. I bet you guys are done watching me drain gas tanks, aren't you? It's a very interesting bolt there with the shallow head, and so I wonder if that's a factory bolt or not. It was kind of loose. If you guys have seen my tank restoration video on the 86 BRAT, this is night and day. This is clear as water right here. So all right, wasn't a lot in there, so we got lucky there. So we'll button this guy back up. I'm happy with that. We're just getting the majority. That is very interesting, and it doesn't thread until like right there. That's interesting. Anyways, maybe it's just for low clearance for going off-road. All right, on to the next step. All right guys, I want to give you a little tip, and probably a tip every video hopefully. Start packaging up your parts as you take them off, especially if you're going to reuse them. The lights obviously we're going to reuse. There's a couple brackets in here that we could potentially reuse, but also things that you might not see for a really long time. So like, here's a trans bracket. If I looked at this in 2 years, I might not even know what it is. I started labeling other things too, like subframe bolts, need to know those. So start to label things. You can even use these little containers like this, Amazon, Harbor Freight. These come in handy. I've already started using them for some of these brackets and bolts. So just a little tip, use some baggies, write on them if you need to, but hopefully that'll help your build go smoothly. Okay, I could have done this a lot better. I want to take these two brackets off here. This guy was here, and this guy was the original jack mount that was there. I tried my best to drill out the spot welds. I know I have a spot weld tool around here somewhere. I couldn't find it, so I just tried to do the old tried and true drill bit method. So got a couple holes there, but we can fill that up because I was planning on filling a lot of these holes. So next thing to remove is this old battery tray. Let's get this guy out. So here you can see I'm using my wire wheel to expose the spot welds. Then I'll go in with my small drill bit to create like a little pilot hole, and I'll go back with a larger drill bit to really expose the metal around the spot weld to hopefully pop that panel off. And sometimes a little hammer and chisel, it comes in handy when you're trying to pop that weld out. Okay, so we got the battery tray out of here. Here it is. It was in there just like that, as you guys saw. So got that out of there and actually managed to not drill any holes through the actual car. I'll keep this, you never know. We could always clean that up. Here is some of the rust that appears to be coming through down into here. This is pretty, here, let me, it's not quite like going all the way through yet, but it is coming into here, which in here is where we're going to probably be notching for the bigger engine. So we'll have to figure that out. It kind of comes into here, nothing on the other side. So, and into here, and these bolts hold on the front valence and bumper. There's another bracket here that we'll probably remove. This bracket, we'll remove that as well. And I think we'll remove this bracket. So 1, 2, we got 3 brackets left to take out of here. We'll move on to taking these 3 out.
The next day.
Hey guys, it's a new day. We wrapped up the engine bay the other day and I ran over to Harbor Freight yesterday because I had a coupon and I picked up these pinch weld vehicle dollies, which we should be able to use in the front. I can put the wheels and tires on the rear because we got all that done. And we can put these on the front so that way we can maneuver the BRAT around and get it outside so we can get it cleaned up.
So I got really lucky with these shocks. The part number doesn't pull up for the BRAT, but I did some research and looked around on Rock Auto, and these happen to meet all the specifications. So I think they're a little long for the ride height that we want, but we'll figure that out once we dive into setting the ride height. These jacks were just what I was looking for. You drop the pinch weld down in between the 2 brackets and then use the nuts and bolts to tighten it on there, and makes it very easy to maneuver around the shop. Hold up to about 3,600 pounds, and the BRAT weighs like 2,000 pounds with everything on it, so very easy, and this is coming really handy for me, so highly recommend these.
All right guys, so we got the Crossmember out of the BRAT. I cleaned it up just a little bit with a pressure washer, got most of the grime off of it. What we need to figure out now is where our motor mounts are gonna mock up here. So from research, I've determined we're probably gonna have to elongate the hole here where this mounts in. Now this hits a little bit on a little notch right here. There's a little indent from the casting that hits on there, and then here that's not even gonna go in because of the heads on these cap screws. So it looks like it's gonna go this way, hopefully. The Subaru engine mounts are a little different. This is offset a little bit from center, as you can see. And so I have to I'll recall from memory where this is gonna match up. So what I wanna do is put the motor mounts on the engine, and then we can kind of hold this guy up to the engine, and I wanna get this all mocked up before we even try to put the engine in the engine bay. So let's give that a shot right now.
So what I'm doing here is I'm just going to hold up the Crossmember to the engine and try to kind of test fit how it's going to fit in the engine bay. I want to get this at least connect it on the engine stand before we even attempt to drop this into the engine bay. There is going to be some modifications done to the Crossmember, as you'll see here soon, but I just want to get a test fit before we try to drop this in and eyeball it while it's in the engine bay.
Okay, the first thing I realized we need to do is we really need to trim out this section here. We can kind of come in here, but this whole section needs to come out. So we're going to do that right now.
All right guys, so you just saw me cut out the lip here, which is gonna help clear the oil pan. If you think this is the back of the engine, it's the front of the engine, it's gonna help clear that oil pan nicely. We'll weld that back up, put some plate in there when we're ready. I went ahead and marked the holes here where the engine mounts will locate on here. However, we're gonna have to move this subframe down about an inch. And so what I wanna do is make some spacer blocks about an inch that will allow the subframe to be low. Well, essentially it's raising the engine up in the engine bay. That's gonna help a couple things. It's gonna help with clearance as far as mounting the Crossmember and the engine together. It's also gonna help us with clearance on the inside of the frame rail, so we can raise that up a little bit. I'm not worried about intercoolers or anything like that, because I think we're gonna do like a water to air setup, or maybe even a front mount. So I'm not worried about that. The turbo's underneath, I'm not worried about that. So by raising this up just a little bit, we should be fine. We should have plenty of clearance in the engine bay. So what I wanna do is make them, I'm gonna probably 3D print them first, just to kind of get a little template, get an idea of what we're doing. And then I have a lot of this scrap aluminum that we could cut up and make little 1-inch blocks, if you will, and drill holes, and then that way we can test fit it. But there is going to be some cutting on the engine bay for sure. Another thing this helps me do is I don't have to cut any more into the Crossmember. So some people have cut in to the corner over here and all that. I won't have to do any of that by raising this up, and I really don't see any reason why we can't do this. We are going to have a mount in the front, a pitch mount, which is how the Legacy GT was set up from the factory. That'll help the engine from going this way. And we'll also have the transmission and the transmission mount. We could still use the pitch stop mount, which comes factory on a lot of STIs, WRXs, and older Legacies and Imprezas. I don't think the Legacy GT that the engine came out of had that, but we could always use that because we're using a 04 WRX transmissions. I'm not worried about tilt or anything like that. So by spacing this 1 inch, we should be fine. It'd be very solid with aluminum mounts. So I think we're gonna do that. So that's it for this video. I know I didn't get a ton done, but as you're going through this with me, you guys can see that there's a lot to think about. There's a lot to research. There's really just a lot to contemplate, you know, late at night when you're laying in bed, trying to figure out how this is gonna work, that's gonna work, where we're gonna go from here. So appreciate you guys watching, staying with me, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks guys.